2011 Toyota FJ Cruiser, and it has almost 202,000 miles on it. So it has a lot of miles on it. It's been a lot of on-road travel, but also off-road travel over the past few years, and it has given me no issues. But I wanted to show you guys what I've done to this thing for overlanding to make it a overland build or camping build. But this thing has served me so well over the years, and I've honestly no plans of getting rid of it anytime soon. I'm gonna keep adding on to it, doing more things. I'm gonna take you from front to back on this thing and show you what I've done. So the front end has changed a little bit over the past 3 years, not a crazy amount. I still have the Smittybilt M1 bumper on it. This thing has served me well. It's still in really good condition for about, I guess it'd be 4.5 years now. It is a heavier bumper, but it's still kind of small. So I actually prefer the look of it over many of the bumpers out there. But even though it is a Smittybilt, but regardless, I also have the Smittybilt winch on it. This thing, again, no issues so far. It's a little bit big and bulky, and the position of the kind of controller here is not the best. I shouldn't say controller, this is where the controller plugs into, but the spot of this isn't the best, and I probably could move it elsewhere. This thing is great. It is a steel cord, so it's not my favorite, but I've had no issues so far with it, besides a little bit of rust down here, but that was my fault from many years ago when I didn't know how to use a winch, and I had it at a crazy angle, so it was kind of rubbing off all the protection on these rollers here. But like I mentioned, it does the job, so at this point it's doing pretty well. At some point I'd like to upgrade it, but for now it's doing pretty good. There is LED fog lamps that came with the bumper, so those are still in here. Those are just standard LED lamps. I'm not sure what brand they are. It's not any big name brand, but they do all right. They're actually pretty bright, and when I had the old headlights in, like the stock headlights, it was way brighter than those. But with these headlights, it's not as bright, and one actually just went out. So yeah, I'll have to replace this at some point. But what I have here are some Chinese halo side markers. It actually was a kit, so it was the side markers and the actual headlight. The headlight got really bad. The halo would like just cut out sometimes, and it was like pieces of it would just flicker, and the actual light in it was terrible, and they were pretty cheap. So I actually replaced the headlight for Freedom Outfitters. They're unfortunately not around anymore, but they made really good lights, and these headlights were I don't know how to say it. It's like the Casio Special or something, but the halos inside are actually really neat, and the lights are really bright themselves. You have to tune them right or else you will get flashed, and occasionally, if they're not tuned quite right, I still will get flashed. But I would definitely recommend these if they were still around. I love these things. I never want to take these off, but eventually I'm gonna have to replace the side markers because they're doing the same thing. The halos flicker, the actual plastic is cracking and it's faded, it's gross. So definitely don't cheap out on your lights. I made that mistake with the side markers. I thought they looked cool, and they did, but they only last a good, I guess this would be, I don't know, 3.5 years, and they're pretty well gone. As far as armor goes underneath, I don't have anything crazy. I have some steel plates kind of underneath to protect some things, but I don't have this crazy armor that kind of covers everything. At some point I want to do that, but so far where we have the armor is where I've actually needed it, so that's a good thing. So before I move on, I do want to finish up the light category. So I don't have many lights on this thing, but I did get these from Freedom Outfitters as well. It's basically a 3D printed part that goes into your headlight, or into your mirror light. It replaces your mirror light, and it puts a Diode Dynamics, I believe it's a SSC1 in it, and it was SSC1 Pro, and it was the wide pattern. So it almost acts as a ditch light. It's not quite a ditch light, but it's at the right position, I should say, where it's wide and it's casting kind of in this general area. So it kind of lights up the side, which is really nice. It has been very helpful in a few situations, and especially at night, if you're setting up camp, you can just flick these on and they cast a very wide light. So I am very impressed with these things. It's a good use of the space here with this light. Obviously the light that came with it, it looked cool, but it wasn't very functional. So this is a good functional piece to put in. Okay, and now for what everybody probably wants to know. The FJ Cruiser is lifted 2 inches, and it's been that way actually since we've got it. But in the past year, I actually replaced all the suspension on this thing. I wasn't sure how the rear was lifted. I assumed it was springs, but it ended up being a spring, but just with like a rubber block on it. It was like 1.5 inches, something like that. What I replaced it with was an Icon Vehicle Dynamics Stage 2. So the Stage 2 doesn't have a reservoir, but it comes with like coilovers, comes with the upper control arm, and the springs for the rear, and as well as the shocks, obviously. But the reason I did that is because I was a little bit worried about this upper control arm because it's been lifted for years. And I was worried about the ball joint a little bit, and as well as the shocks were getting shot already. I've had Bilsteins on this thing twice. I had 2 sets of Bilsteins on this thing, and each time they would end up failing within 1.5 years, 2 years maybe. So I wanted something a little bit better, and so far they've done really well. The ride is really nice with this thing, and you can also adjust the ride height. And the cool thing about that is actually the FJ, and you might have noticed this if you own an FJ, it leans a little bit to the left if you're looking at it from the back. And that I believe is because of the fuel tank, but it kind of helps even that out because I can crank the coilovers a little bit higher, or they're a little bit tighter, I should say, on the other side, and it helps level it out a little bit. I don't go too far, obviously, because I don't want to upset that too much, but that has helped kind of keep the vehicle level. As far as the tires, these are Nitto Ridge Grapplers. They are 33s. 33s so far have done me very well. Of course, I'd at some point like to get 35s or larger, but honestly, for most of the trails, 33s have done great. I've had 0 issues with clearance. Out in Colorado, there's some tough spots, but nothing I couldn't get over. And the tires on these things are insane. So these are the Nitto Ridge Grapplers. It's basically an all-terrain, mud-terrain hybrid, so it's somewhere in between there. But I've had not many traction issues. I've been very impressed, and the tread stays for a long time, and they wear pretty even, and they're not that loud. So honestly, I would probably buy them again once these wear out. And we also have a puncture in one of them out in Colorado. Got punctured, plugged it, and it's doing great. No issues with that at all. And I know I said they're 33s, but they're actually 285 by 70 R17. That's the specific tire size. These are Vision wheels. Nothing special with these. It kind of pushes it out a little bit on the FJ. It makes it look good. But again, I have no complaints about them. They do great. But that is basically the suspension setup. Like I said, in the rear, I have a 2-inch lift spring and Icon shocks. I will say these shocks feel really nice off the road. It's nothing like game changing. It's nothing like crazy. Like, it feels like it's just so smooth. But it definitely has a kind of a tighter, more sturdier feel than it did before. And I think that could partially be because the springs were worn out in the back, but otherwise it feels really great when driving. Another big change was what's going on here with the roof. So right now we have an EXO Overland roof rack. These racks are not on the market. I actually worked with a group of guys at work to make this happen. This thing has been flawless so far. I wanted a roof rack that's a little bit slimmer than most, but also still easy to mount things on. And so with that, I have the Rome Rambler mounted on it. I've had this tent for about, I want to say like 2.5 years maybe, or 3 years. And it has done me very well. They actually don't make it anymore. It's not as easy as like the clamshells to set up, but it is very roomy inside. So I've actually gone on a few recent trips with my wife and some friends, and my wife loves the comfort of this thing and just the mattress and everything that's in it. So definitely love that setup. Again, neither of these things you could buy right now, but that is kind of what's new. And that being said, I want to move to the rear to kind of talk about the new things back there, and then move into the inside of the vehicle, where I added a lot more creature comforts for camping. And back here, the biggest thing has changed is basically the antenna mount. Before, in the last video, I did discuss I have the refined Cyclone off-road Rotopax mount. So right now I have 2 gallons gas, 2 gallons potable water. This mount has done very well. In that video, I think I might have actually talked about this, but at one point, and I think this might happen on 2 trips, I had 4 Rotopax on this thing. Basically, I interlocked them and stacked them here. That is not recommended. That's a lot of weight for back here, but when we were in North Maine woods, we had to have a lot of gas to kind of make it to all of our locations that we were going. So this mount has done very good so far. I've had no issues with it. Sometimes people get concerned about the wiggle. There's a slight wiggle when you're driving, but that has been no issue so far. Everything's pretty tight. All the bolts and nuts stay tight. So I've had no issues with that. It's really nice to carry extra water as well as gas. What I put on here though is an antenna for a radio. I have a Cobra handheld radio in there, a CB radio. So this thing has been really nice for communication. This is the Firefly. This is a 3-foot version of that antenna. So it sticks out a little bit above the tent just to get better signal. And the antenna itself I've had no issues with. This wire basically runs up through the inside of the vehicle. I kind of ran it through some panels and ran it to my console where I have the handheld Cobra. And that thing can do AM or FM, so that is really nice because you can kind of change channels and stay off of the certain trucker channels to kind of just be with your group. So again, makes communication way easier. No issues with that. This I talked about before too. I have no clue where this came from. This was from the original owner. It's a 3D printed Toyota housing for the backup camera. So nothing special there. But that's basically the back here. Now I'm gonna open this up and show you guys the inside. Now this is kind of where I've changed a lot of things. I actually removed part of the second row seating, and I now have an air down gear up system in here. This system has been incredibly helpful on trips, because if you're like me, sometimes you're camping last minute and you're just throwing things in your vehicle and going out. And this thing's made it a lot easier to organize, because you can still throw things in your vehicle, but at least it's organized. So this drawer system is usually full of a lot of camping gear. You know, there's a lot of pots and pans in here, a lot of cooking stuff. So makes it so easy to fit in here. And this is also a sleeping platform. It doubles as a sleeping platform. So when I was out in Colorado and Sarah, my now wife, flew out, she would sleep in here and I would sleep up there, and she loved sleeping in here. And I've loved sleeping here whenever I've been in here. But this thing has been so nice on all the camping trips, just to organize, because organizing is the biggest pain in the butt sometimes. So I would definitely do that again if I had another vehicle. And Air Down Gear Up makes really good systems. Again, I'm not sponsored by them at all. It is pricier, but it is definitely worth it. The build quality is great. I have no concerns about this thing at all. So again, I absolutely love this thing. It was definitely worth taking out I'd call it the seat and a half up there, the 60%. As far as back here, we also have a Iceco VL45 Pro S fridge. I have a review on that, so click here to watch that. This thing has done so well. I've had it running, I don't know how many days total. It has a ton of space in it, and it keeps things really cold. You can actually go below freezing on it, which I've accidentally done. And it does pretty well at keeping those temps, which surprised me. I wasn't sure how it would keep those temps, because I've never had a fridge before. So is it necessary for your build? No, but it makes it really nice when you're going on long trips. When my dad and I went out to Colorado, we would have not been able to do it without this thing, because we were able to store at least a week's worth of food in here for the two of us, cold food, and it just made it a ton easier. Now, this is probably one of my favorite parts about this vehicle. I did this last summer. I put in a secondary or a dual battery for the fridge and for anything else I might need. I have a little charging panel back there with like USB and like car ports and everything. So that is what powers the fridge. That is a Renogy 100 amp hour lithium ion battery. It's under part of this system. There's a gap up front. It's kind of hard to see, but there's a gap up front under the system that there's some space where I was able to put the battery and able to put the DC to DC charger. And that thing is incredibly fast with charging that battery, that DC to DC charger. I've had no issues with it. The only thing I've had is a fuse blow, which I'm not sure why that happened, but that was something up front coming from the starter battery to the DC charger. Other than that, it's been incredible. It charges so fast. I would say if you're driving like on normal roads and you were, I don't know, it's usually down 30% overnight with this cooler here, or fridge I should say. It usually charges up within, I want to say like 30 to 40 minutes. So it's pretty fast. I will say that with the charging off the alternator, it's incredibly fast. And again, back to Colorado, but we would have not been able to do it without that thing in order to power the fridge and all my camera gear. You can basically run that thing forever, or as long as you need. As long as you're driving semi-frequently with your vehicle, that thing just runs and runs and runs. So as far as the big things, that is kind of it for this Overland build, I guess you could say. Of course, there's other small things I've done, like add a fire extinguisher, bring medical with me, all of that sort of thing. If you guys have any comments or questions about this build, put that down in the comments below. And I want to see you guys' thoughts on it, and also just interact, kind of see what else you guys think I should do to this thing. It has been really cool to just take this thing out and use it. That is obviously my favorite part. I love building vehicles, but I also love using them. So this is not a beauty queen. It doesn't look the best all the time. It's got some scratches on it, but it does the job. So remember, just get out, use what you have, and go somewhere new.